Okay, hello everyone. My name is Maciej Mroz. Right now I'm a vice president of GameDesire, but as Casey said, I used to hold many different roles in my life. For a long time I've been an engineer and CTO of the company, so this talk is going to have some maths, but I'll try to get it as simple as possible at high school level. So about our company, we started very small like everyone else, but right now we are about 100 people and focusing on social casino and casual games, always free to play. In our history, we've pretty much never done premium games. And with 100 people, it's obvious that we run multiple projects at the same time, and they are actually running across multiple platforms, not only mobile, but also web and social, with different web white label partnerships. So this is quite, I would say, challenging to have all those ways to and all those games that reach our players. So what is also very special about our company, because it was sort of built by engineers, at least initially, is that our entire technology stack is our own, and that means not only front-end engineering, but also back-end platform and analytics and data engineering. So this helps us in many ways, which I will tell about later, but what I'm going to talk about today honestly took us quite some time to build and to get it right. So the challenge that we have at this size of the company and at this amount of projects and different projects meant for different audiences is how do we know that the game will do well? Say after a month or 2 months or 3 months of soft launch period. Obviously you have some qualitative data, say from focus tests, and you have your gut feelings, but ultimately it's a business, so you want the game to perform well, and well, how do you do that? And what's also a challenge is that you have different profiles of games. Some of them will be more, say, geared for mass market users targeting 1 million plus MAUs. Some of them will do fine if they just have 100,000 users, but monetize pretty well. Say, social casino are this kind of titles. They don't need to have millions of users to do pretty well in financial terms, because the ARPU numbers are a lot higher. So you will see different numbers in terms of KPIs, different conversions, different ARPUs, different MAUs, and different growth patterns, different CPIs for the games. And you have just few weeks of data from the game, and how do you know if it's worth pursuing? Because for us, when we soft launch a game and we decide to go further with that, that's obviously something that means this is where majority of our costs are, not in pre-soft launch phase, but when we actually start to build up on all the features that were initially planned, and we start to build up the team, we start to scale the game and to produce more and more content. So this also means that if we know that the game doesn't work very well, we should probably cancel it and focus our efforts elsewhere. And this is always an emotional decision, obviously, but it's good to have some sort of data that supports it. So, as I said, before launch, it's simple. After launch, it's a lot of things that happen in the product, and that's obviously a lot of A/B testing. It's tuning the difficulty, and there is also optimizations at how you operate the game. And this is on both product and marketing side. I believe that this is the hardest thing about free-to-play games, that developing the game before soft launch is pretty predictable, because yes, there is some iteration process, some brainstorming, whatever, but you develop it in, say, predictable cost at least. So what you have in a free-to-play game is that you have some term called LTV, and everyone knows it, but how do we move from LTV to actually what the game makes? And again, this is not very complex, but when you have a cohort of users coming on a specific day or week, and they produce certain revenue over time, then you can just sum it and sum those overlapping cohorts and have the revenue curve for the game. And this is simple, right? This is simple, but what's really important is how you derive the LTV curve, and how you make sure that it works with most of your products. As I said, this is a model. This is just a way to approximate things, but the simplest way to do it is through geometric series, and I'm pretty sure everyone has seen it quite a few times. And it's a good point to start, but it doesn't really work. It's not very practical, because every product is different, and the retention actually isn't really looking as simple as geometric series. So it's good to have it on the back of your mind, and we use it to, when, say, onboarding new people who have no idea about free-to-play model, we use it as a way to show them the value of optimizing retention and monetization, but it's still good for, like, what I would call back-of-the-envelope calculations. But in reality, it's not what you would use, and it's very theoretical. But what we did was sort of better theoretical model. That was our first approach to modeling it, and we decided, okay, but what's really changing is that retention over time is changing, and the churn over time is changing. And this was our first approach, as I said, and we did it as an interactive website. This had very big value for us, because when, say, people in a company were playing, okay, what kind of KPIs we need on a game, without really thinking that much on a design, maybe about thinking, okay, we got probably this kind of acquisition cost on this target group, can we get this kind of revenue? It can be many different questions, but what they were able to do is just play with the sliders. Again, it's not really pretty, but it's something that we put in our intranet, and we were able just to, okay, you can play with the sliders, and you can see how the revenue is going to work month by month. And this kind of integration, that you have these multiple overlapping cohorts, we just did it on the website. So you can just move the slider and look how the revenue is going to change. And it's very approximate. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better than simple LTV model based on geometric series. And as I said, it already does this sum for you. So this is still very theoretical, but it was a good start for us. What is important is that reality is never smooth, continuous, and so on. And what you are going to see is that this is great for like concepts, maybe talking about what impacts the revenue and how it impacts it. It's great at showing, say, for example, value of long-term user retention versus day one, and shows you the areas of focus that you might want in the product. But all those things vary over time, and every product is different. It evolves. So this is really something that we decided to take into account and work with our analysts and build a better model. So we decided to use the historical data from the history of our company and look at how the monetization is looking like. So you see that they are not these are not smooth curves of monetization, and you have clear outliers that aren't really explainable in easy way. They just happened. We had cohorts of users that monetized like this. So this is something to keep in mind. And you know, our analysts just sort of smoothed it out. But this curve of monetization, which it's cut at 360 days, is better approximation of what really happens in the product. And it will depend on the say specific product, but what we found, and this is really interesting, is that it's really portable. We were really surprised that the games that we thought are really different, like say for example Mahjong and poker, could still, after all this work, be using with not much error, say this kind of curve from different game, but with some approximations. So this is what we did. Is that we decided to apply it and start very simple, but then go deeper into that and look at our data and look at how it really looks like. So this really helped us to build more of a financial model of a game. And the model that we are really using when managing products right now, when deciding when to kill the product, when to move forward with the product, and something that we really say feed into the company P&L, is based on the historical data. And it uses the retention, ARPU, and churn after actually the first month as an input, and tries to model the revenue. So what we do is that we change the values of our KPIs month by month. This is good to discuss with product manager, for example, what can we do, what can we really achieve in a month or 6 months or 3 months. So if we know what's realistically possible to achieve. So this is how it looks like. I needed to blur out a lot of stuff, but what we ended up with was, this is actually something that our finance director did together with our analysts, is build an Excel model. It's based on a historical cohort data that's really fit into what happened in our past games. And we can change the values that we expect on a product. Say what kind of expect D1, D7 retention we expect on the product, given say our gut feeling, and this is very initial approximation of what happens in the product. But what's really important is that when we have data from soft launch, we can actually replace those approximations with reality. And when that happens, we can get updated P&L instantly. And that works pretty well for us, because then we know if our assumptions were true. We always operate on assumptions. This is always approximations, but still we can update them very quickly. And this is a lot more accurate model than the simple models based on, for example, geometric series. So this takes time to build. This takes time to build, and tracking and data analytics is essential. Also, having your own data on your own servers, accessible to your own analysts, is very important to that. So we rarely use third-party analytics services. Sometimes we do that. Sometimes we don't. We integrate different services, but all our data is is available on our Hadoop cluster, and it's available all the time to all the people in the company. So the final thought is that we use that data, but still it doesn't really replace your gut feeling and people you have in the company. So I think that, like the interactive website I shown earlier, it really demonstrates concepts. And when you have this approximation, what kind of, say, how the P&L of the game might look like, it's still just a feeling. And yes, we can approximate and we can know some things more quickly. It's more of a reality check. But you can't really eliminate human factor from that. It's not a way to replace people with machines. It's just a way to make more informed decisions. But what's important for us is that people can put those KPIs in a specific context. They know if I improve retention, it's going to, say, move the revenue, move the needle by a specific amount, probably. So we can use it to set team goals, to quarterly goals, yearly goals. So this is, I think, big win. And as I said, it's still a matter of finding correct balance, because I believe after all the time working with data, working with analytics and mathematical models and so on, is that you can never replace intuition and your gut feeling. And it's still a creative industry. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions?
I have a question regarding the, you mentioned that the data is for making decisions regarding when to kill off a project. What would you see would be a good timeline where you have sufficient data to make that decision?
Okay, I will answer it like a consultant. It depends. We did kill one project this year. It happened, and it happened after 3 months of soft launch. And honestly, we waited 3 months only because we sort of promised the team that we will wait 3 months and they can still turn it around. And they wanted to do it. They still failed. The data was there earlier than we did this. So my thinking is that, and it's a bias, that most of us probably kill projects too late. And it depends, because sometimes you are sort of going in the right direction, and you get to the point where it sort of works, but it's not exactly what we wanted to, but it's going to be profit positive. Then you have the problem of, do we have better alternative? Because sometimes you can have good project, but just there might be better project around. So I can't answer your question like in very, very definite way, because it's really up to your company and what you are doing and what kind of projects you are doing and what kind of team you have. We did it in very different ways. My thinking after all this time is that most people kill projects too late.
So these takeaways, these formulas, are they mostly social casino specific? Do you believe they can apply to other genres?
Absolutely not social casino specific. This was a big surprise for us that Yes, it's good to have this kind of approximations done for specific genre of games. That's better, always. So if you have much-free game, then other much-free game will probably be better approximated by using data from much-free games. But and really, that was just a few percentage of errors. That initially, what we did is were experiments like, let's take the data that we approximated from poker into bingo, and that creates big error in the first months of user lifetime. But once you move, say, to 6 months plus, then the revenue curves are starting to sort of get closer to each other. So it is applicable to any kind of free-to-play game. Obviously, a lot of how the monetization look in the game depends on the specific game in question, on the design in question. Say, for example, how the player progression is designed. So where the say resources are running out, and where the pressure points are on monetization. So this is up to game designers. It's going to differ game by game, but it's absolutely applicable to different games.
Do you? Is it also fairly platform agnostic? Does it matter, like, if it's multi-platform or on mobile or on Facebook or?
We do it separately for different platforms because we can. But again, it's models, it's approximations, but it's possible to use it to model any free-to-play game. It doesn't have to be on mobile. On mobile, you will have different kind of user behavior patterns because the, say, session frequency and session length is going to be different. The retention is also going to look differently. But once you input this data into the model, it's going to be sort of okay. The models are not meant to be perfect. They are just meant to help people with making the decisions about the product, about the future of it.
And does this all apply to, like, whether you're a startup or a mega corporation, would this still be usable?
Well, if you're a startup, you probably don't have any historical data, so it's not really applicable. I think that what I think that's valuable at the startup level when you are a small company is to have this kind of like interactive model that people can play with. Because what I noticed is that when people come into the company, and you are a 100-person company, some people have been doing free-to-play for 10 years, 15 years even, probably some veterans are to be found that have been doing this that long. And then you have people, say, straight off the college. And getting this kind of tool into their hands is great for education. It's great for education to make sure that people in the company know how really things tick, how we make revenue. Because this is really something I found as a culture problem, that people want to make games, people want to make something fun, and then you need to explain to them, okay, but if we don't monetize the users, we are not getting our paychecks, and they need to know that, say, if I improve retention, that's actually good for product revenue. So this part is good for smaller companies. For larger companies, obviously, they have historical data, and they should use it.
Any chance you're selling or offering the interactive website for anyone?
We were discussing it. Always decided not to do it. Simply because our business is still making games, not making technology behind games. We might revisit it in future, but not today.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.